because of the planes. She told me everything. She had pictures. She had everything. She was in hiding for 12 years. We convinced her to come out. We convinced her to talk to us. It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton, we had everything. I tried for 3 years to get it on, to no avail, and now it's all coming out, and it's like these new revelations, and I freaking had all of it. I'm so pissed right now. Like, every day I get more and more pissed because I'm just like, oh my God, what we had was unreal.
So this comes out and ABC scrambles, really scrambles. Now, not to find out who or why this tape was suppressed, why network executives protected Jeffrey Epstein of all people. No. They scrambled to find and punish the person who leaked the tape. They're much more committed to butt covering than they are to truth exposing. Katie Pavlich is editor of Town Hall, and she joins us tonight. So, Katie, there's really no, and I want to say what I said last night, which is watching this, good for Amy Robach. Every time I watch this, I think, she seems like a sort of a real journalist. Good for her. Mm-hmm. There's no question executives at ABC protected Jeffrey Epstein. Why do you think they did that?
Well, because their star anchor's name is George Stephanopoulos. And, of course, George Stephanopoulos worked as Bill Clinton's communications director at the White House. And when was all of this information being given to Amy Robach at ABC? When did she bring all of this to her executives to say, we should put this on the air? Oh, right before a 2016 presidential election when Hillary Clinton was running on the Democratic ticket. Now, to give you the backstory on George Stephanopoulos' own connections to Jeffrey Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein held a dinner party at his house after Jeffrey Epstein served 13 months in prison for the first time he went to jail for soliciting prostitutes who were underage. And the reason
Wait, can you stop right there? So you're saying that at the time Amy Robach took this story to her superiors and they said, I don't know who Jeffrey Epstein is, his name was already all over the news as a convicted sex offender.
Yes, he had already been to prison. Okay. And then after that, he held a fancy party at the same townhome where he molested a number of women and brought other men to molest girls and women. He held a party where Prince Andrew was present, and George Stephanopoulos was then at the party. And later, when he was indicted again over the summer for even more egregious crimes before he was found dead in his jail cell, he issued an apology and said, it was bad judgment for me to go to that dinner party after he had been in prison. So this all comes down to the Clintons, George Stephanopoulos working at ABC, and the circle of connections that they have there in protecting not just the Clintons, of course, because that is something that they are willing to do for political purposes, because according to ABC's editorial standards, which we keep hearing about, the standards aren't about necessarily accusers bringing forward evidence on someone who had already been convicted of similar crimes, but instead of to protect political people and friends who are beneficial to them and who have very, very close connections to people on their network who claim to be leading journalists like George Stephanopoulos.
But the reaction has been fascinating in that MSNBC and CNN, both of which have media reporters, have essentially ignored this.
Yeah, they're still not touching it.
So why is Jeff Zucker and Noah Oppenheim, why are they covering up for Jeffrey Epstein too, in effect?
Well, I think it has to do with politics, but we don't have a smoking gun video as we do through Project Veritas with what ABC was doing.
Right.
I don't know why they're not covering it. Maybe because the political implications for who Jeffrey Epstein was connected to happens to be people who they have supported over the years and held fundraisers for and donated money to. George Stephanopoulos also had to apologize on air a couple of years ago for hiding the fact that he donated $75,000+ to the Clinton Foundation while he was covering a presidential election that happened to include Hillary Clinton herself. And I just want to say one more thing about Project Veritas. When they first came on the scene, James O'Keefe and took out Acorn for what they were doing in terms of illegal behavior in 2010, George Stephanopoulos interviewed James and accused him of being a white supremacist. He accused him of not being a real journalist, of being an activist. And then he proudly proclaimed that he was actually a real journalist after serving in the Clinton White House. And so that also has something to do with it.
when the political hacks, when the hyenas say, you're not a real journalist.
But I'm a real journalist.
How many news stories have you written? I always want to ask that. Like, you found a lot of news stories, a lot of tough news stories, Mr. Morning Guy? Okay. Katie, great to see you.
Good to see you, Tucker. Thank you.
Jane Pirro is the anchor of Justice here on the Fox News channel. She's also the author of the book Radicals, Resistance, and Revenge. What does she think of this as someone who has followed the Jeffrey Epstein case from the beginning? So, Judge, I want you to take like 3 steps back. What exactly is going on here? Jeffrey Epstein is dead, however he died. People are still covering up for him. Who was he working for? How did he get so rich? What was his actual business? Was he in the employ of a foreign government? Like, what is this story really about? No, seriously.
You know what this story is about? This story is about money and power and masters of the universe. This story is about the type of crime that has been going on since the Roman days. It's about pedophiles. It's about the exploitation of young women for the gratification of men who can afford it. It's about a secret society of men who share the same predilections and who have money and power and understand that they're not going to let the other one go, be blamed or in any way be sentenced for what has happened, for what he or she has done. Look, Epstein was in 2005 arrested in Florida. The United States Attorney Acosta took the case and literally gave everyone connected with Epstein, Tucker, a get out of jail free pass by giving them in perpetuity immunity from prosecution forever. Now, when you think about it, I've been in law enforcement 32 years. I never heard of anything like that. Neither has anyone I know.
No.
It is the rich friends, the powerful friends, the masters of the universe who got this protection. And, Amy Robach, to her credit, she had the story. And, just like you just talked about, the truth is you could have run this story. You could have had this woman. I could have proven this case in a criminal courtroom beyond a reasonable doubt without further corroboration.
So what happened? If you talk to people at ABC, you know a lot of people. What did people inside the network say?
My sources tell me that this thing was ready to air. It was in the can, Tucker. What does that tell you? That tells you it got approval, it got mid-management approval, and it was right at the end that it was pulled. That suggests to me that it was pulled from the top. And it was in the midst of a presidential race. Hillary Clinton had too much to lose. George Stephanopoulos had too much to lose. NBC is protecting Weinstein and Clinton. ABC is protecting Epstein and Clinton. She is the common denominator. She cannot afford to have her husband in any way upset the one thing she wants in this world, and that is to be president. He lied when he said he was on the Lolita Express, the plane that took them to the island where they had sex with these young women. What did he say, 4 times? We now know from the plane logs it was dozens of times.
Liar.
So Amy Robach, I'm sure, is right. Buckingham Palace pushed back, Dershowitz pushed back. But, that doesn't matter because we're still talking about Buckingham Palace, even though Prince Andrew's out there.
No, it's totally true. And I would say the overview is the people in charge who've done a very crappy job running this world know they're losing control. And they're getting hysterical about it. And they're trying to suppress information about their misdeeds. And I hope it doesn't work because they deserve to be exposed. Judge, great to see you tonight. I hope you'll come back on this. Let's keep pulling the threads.
I will. I love this case.
I do.